right, this isn't going to take too much time because, like I said, for whatever reason, I can't find what I'm looking for, so I'll have to give it to you on Thursday. But just to show you this real quick, some of the stuff I did in here, the form doesn't look real nice, but I made virtually every field other than the state field the same size, just because I thought it made it easier. Plus, some of this stuff was getting long. But again, I put placeholder text in there, so Social Security number must be in that format. But for some reason, it's after it gets done with the required tests, it's supposed to be stopping, but it's also doing these tests. I'm not sure why. All right, like I said, it was working fine the other night, but I don't want to waste my time or waste your time with it. So what we're going to eventually get to is right now, this particular file, all right, this is an index.html file. All right, and what that index.html file does is it calls the PHP file handle form version 1. All right, and what we will eventually do is, rather than having a special file version 1 like this, we'll keep all this stuff in here that we have. We'll keep all this PHP at the top, but we'll ask a question first. All right, we'll basically ask whether or not the form has been submitted. The way you can tell whether or not the form has been submitted when we run this is that means that button's been clicked. If that button's been clicked, what we want to do is we want to run through all the validation and show us all the good stuff, etc. All right? And if the button has not been clicked, and for example, it won't have been clicked the first time you bring it up, then what we want to do is we want the form to show. So what we'll do is, where we had previously had two files, where we had the two files, the one file that has the HTML in it and the one file that has the PHP in it, we'll go and we'll grab all of that HTML and we'll throw it at, all the stuff for the form, we'll throw it right at the end of our PHP file. All right, and again, we'll ask whether or not the form has been submitted. No if else, just an if. If it has, then we're going to do all this stuff that you saw before, everything that's in there. All right, and if it hasn't been submitted, it'll skip that, it'll go all the way down to the bottom, and it'll show the form. So that's the next step. All right, the step after that then is when there's problems, when there's errors, we don't want it to show like this. We don't want it to show here. I don't want all that stuff. I don't want it separately. Instead, what I want it to do is I want the errors to show right over here. All right, and put a little CSS in there. We'll make them red or whatever, and we'll keep the values that were put in here. Since we've got sticky forms, we'll keep those values in there. All right. Now, will we get that far by Thursday? That's actually my hope. All right. And if we do get there by Thursday, then what I'll do next, let's say we get there and there's still a little time left. I'm not saying we will or will not, but let's say we do. I want to quickly talk about some of the stuff with arrays. We've gone through some of it already. All right, but talk about that and then give you your first assignment so you can ideally have lab in here next week also, which would mean that out of the 5 classes, you'd have lab in C, you'd have lab in ASP.NET, you'd have lab in PHP, you'd have lab in Java. The only one we're not into a lab yet is in the Joomla class because of the way the book is set up. All right, but the good news is, like I said, then for those classes, 4 out of the 5 days, so if anybody is behind, like me, but if anybody else is behind, you'll have a chance, hopefully, to catch up. All right. And I'll make sure that, since we're not going to have as many assignments, but they'll be a little bit more complex, all right, I will make sure then that I give you 3 weeks to work on it. You'll get at least a week of lab. You might get 3 lab periods. We'll just see how it goes. All right, but I will tell you this, and this isn't a problem with the people in here, all right, by and large. But if I give a lab, let's say it's lab next Tuesday, and it's me and John, then I'm not going to be really wanting to have lab 3 days of lab. You see what I'm saying? And you can say to me, let's just say that I'm just looking at Zane. Zane's not here. Let's say he's working out at home. I believe him. I really do. But at the same time, we only have a limited amount of time anyway. All right. What I'd like to do is, like I said, get through that thing on arrays, and we're through the first 7 chapters in the book, and then give you an assignment. And the assignment will have probably 3 or 4 problems on it. All right, and if let's say it has 4, 3 of them won't be like this with a form. They'll be write this application as a PHP app. And the last one will be to go back and create a form more like this, but then do validation, all right? And then when you get done, if everything is okay, when you call check form, because this will be in a PHP file, call another PHP file that will actually echo out the data in the form almost like of a letter. All right, so you'll have to do some formatting on it. I had the class do that last year. I'm going to have you do something similar to that. It was a very interesting assignment, and everybody got it done. Even people who struggle in the class got it done. But just to look at the amount of sophistication some people put into it as opposed to what other people put into it. All right, so that's kind of what we have on tap. Then when we get done with that in here, and of course I took the book upstairs, but that's okay because it's not my H drive. I can do one of these magical things right now if you want, all right, and that is, let's see, let me get out of the virtual desktop, go to students. Oh, I don't know where he put it now, doggone it. Well, again, it's upstairs. I found a PDF of our book. All right. So if it does happen to magically appear out on the P drive next week, it'll probably appear out there for about 2 or 3 minutes. So if people want to copy it, they'd be able to copy it. You have it? Okay. He gave it to me last week, but of course I put it on, I don't know where I put it. But either way, this is what I want to show you, because I'm done, but I just want to show you this. I don't have to do that. Do it easier than that. Thank you. Oops. Books. Oh, since I already had it there. Okay, groovy. Whatever. Copy and replace. I guess it was there. I didn't see it, but I guess it was there. So let me eject that. Okay, so for the next 2 minutes then, there's the book. All right. It's going to magically appear on the P drive for this class right under 152, 148, fall 2014. There it is. Okay, so there it is. It's right here. Right there. It should be the only PDF that's in there, in that particular folder. All right, it's called PHP for the Web Visual Quick Start Guide, 4th edition, .pdf. All right, so if you want that. Okay, now, what I wanted to show you, though, was this. As far as I'm concerned, at least, all right, we've gone through Chapter 1, getting started with PHP, Chapter 2, variables. Chapter 3 now, that's what we're doing now, HTML forms in PHP. Chapter 4, using numbers. Chapter 5, using strings. Chapter 6, control structures. And we will go over Chapter 7, using arrays. Again, then you'll get your first assignment. All right? Then, rather than jumping into this stuff, which is hard enough, we're going to do a little bit of a change of course, and we're going to do 10 and 11. creating functions and files and directories. But we'll only spend about a week on that. Functions you know already. We've already looked a little bit at functions, but I want to look at them in a little bit more detail. All right? And then when we get done with that, we'll go into Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. And it's going to be good because when we get into 9, cookies and sessions, we'll have talked about that already in the ASP.NET class also. All right? Then when we get, then we'll have another assignment. Then we'll come back in and we'll look at 12 and 13. Databases, so we'll hook this on to a PHP or to a MySQL database. All right, then we'll create an app, a couple simple ones, and one that's a little bit more difficult. The last program that he has in here, he's got a database full of quotations. All right, and you can add quotes and you can remove quotes and you can modify quotes if you're an administrator. All right, you can select favorite quotes, etc. It's fine, but I think we'll probably end up doing a different one than that. What I'd like to do, hopefully by the time we get to about week 12, 13, whatever, is to work on a fairly complex app as a class and kind of write it together. And then get you to a certain point and say, now put your own spin on it. You know, you don't like the way this looks. You know, we've got people in here who seem to be very graphically oriented and graphically talented. Put your own logo on it, put your own this on it, put your own that on it. You don't like the database, you can change it around, you can do whatever you want to do. Because again, the idea in this semester is to give you assignments that are more reflective of the kind of work that you might actually get out on the job. All right, that's what I'm kind of looking for. All right. Questions? That's all I had. All right. We'll get it fixed, hopefully by Thursday.